You ever try to build something using meters instead of feet and inches just to challenge yourself?
No, I didn't go into engineering for that.
Okay.
That's not
Oh, so that's an engineering thing. That wouldn't even be you.
well, like I think if you like numbers and like math, and
All of a sudden on the construction site, every foreman, everybody knows how to use Google Converter at that point.
I'll try anything.
That's right. or for 1 hour. Hey, welcome into Carpooling with Ben. Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest, you see his name, but it's not the guy you're thinking. This one is not the one who threw some punches from the pitcher's mound in Fenway Park. No, ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe Kelly of the podcast that every construction outfit out there should be listening to in Massachusetts. Joe Kelly, welcome in. Great to have you, sir.
Ben, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I like your background setup. It looks good. You got the fluty flex going on. You got the nice setup there. It looks awesome.
Yeah, it's meant for the New England crowd. They'll appreciate it. It's funny. I can't tell you how many times I get like a picture of a Joe Kelly Fight Club bumper sticker or something texted to me. I've got to live with that for a while.
Now, are you the kind of person that, because I don't know you personally, but are you the kind of person that's a little hot tempered and, will throw down? I mean, does it fit naturally, or is it really just not the namesake?
No, I'm pretty laid back.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I would imagine you'd have to be. You put this podcast together not too long ago, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But before we do, talk to me about your background and how you got into, the whole construction game and this whole thing. You got a lovely collection of hard hats there as well.
Yeah, it's all the different places I've worked. City of Boston, this company, they used to go by Bovis. Now they go by Lend-Lease, just a kind of large international general contractor, build high rises, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, Dad was an insulator growing up, so I had a little bit of exposure to it, like to build tree forts and things like that. I liked the fact that construction allowed you to do a little bit of everything. And I think that spills over into what you see now. And I kind of almost think of someone like yourself, we probably fit in the same mold. Like, you're a firefighter, a podcaster, a sports announcer, country music, you dabble in everything. I think we're of the same mind. So I liked construction in that respect. If I did civil engineering or something, I don't think I would want to just be focused on one thing, where construction let me learn a little bit about everything to try and put a building together. So, that's how I ended up in construction.
ADHD is a superpower in my book, and it just allows you to do a bunch of different things. I told you I wouldn't hit you with too many hard-hitting questions, but I do have one controversial question. Romex and extension cords. Are extension cords just like Romex in a prom dress? How does that, what's the difference? Why don't you just buy Romex and throw an adapter on it?
Yeah, Romex is going to be the residential world. I'm used to a lot seeing more what they say MC cable, which would be the metal jacketed stuff that you're thinking.
So why don't you use that? Or you just got to use the extension cords because they're fancy.
Oh, why wouldn't you actually? Oh, I don't think you'd be allowed to, right? Because you'd be having, you don't really want homemade electrical appliances.
All right, fine. That's fine. Whatever. It's whatever you guys want to do, don't you?
As a firefighter, I think you'd be kind of against homemade electrical appliances.
Well, yes, exactly. Well, that's why we leave that all to you. You just call me when things are bad. We'll make it right. We just turn it off and let the pros come in and rebuild it and everything. So you started this podcast. It's been going for a few years, and really, obviously, we're at a point now where you kind of had to shift gears a little bit over the past year. There's been a lot of different topics covered, but you bring in experts from the field. You talk about topics, a wide range. Sometimes it's just you. Sometimes it's you and a guest. Talk to me about the podcast, where people could find it, and really, who it's for.
Yeah, so you can find it anywhere, whether Stitcher, SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever you kind of listen. It was very much a kind of selfish act, right? I was a podcast junkie. I don't know if you're a big podcast listener, but
yeah,
in the shower, riding to work, making coffee, I look at it as it's a free education, and I always want to learn. And it seemed like construction never had, at least commercial construction never had a place for people to learn. There was very niche kind of podcast, construction tech. But, I only can listen to people talk about construction technology, so much, right?
Sure.
So I said, you know what? There's nothing really for commercial construction. There's the there's plenty for residential folks.
Mhm.
So whether it's fine home building, modern craftsmen, essential craftsmen, HGTV, even, there's just a lot of media out there, but not much on the commercial side. So I said, hey, like I would like to do this. Well, I would like to have this and listen to it. So why don't I just do it? And
Yeah.
I did.
So you started it. It's been going on for a couple of years now. Was the first episode was when I was looking back in the iTunes history, it looks like it was 2017, 2018 was kind of the time frame. If I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
lost track. Yeah, I was. Yeah, right around there.
You just got a lot of SoundCloud files going on, a lot of data storage and everything. So, for people, the construction industry obviously has gone through a ton of changes over the past year. There's a cost increase for materials. There was some times where there may have been shortages here or there or whatnot. As a whole, though, the construction industry, correct me if I'm wrong, seems to be thriving right now.
Yeah, it's strange. I don't know if it's just a product of where we are and our local economy is doing well. For people outside of construction, they might not hear this. The people that listen to the podcast would hear me talk about this probably too much. But, as you can read headlines, life sciences is doing really well. And, I think, does Rhode Island still have Genzyme?
It's a good question.
I think they do. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, you guys have some life science in Rhode Island.
We have a ton, obviously, just with education and stuff. Absolutely,
Yep.
Different schools.
The life science sector and the hospital sector has kept folks busy, and multifamily residential has not slowed down. Like you alluded to the fact that wood costs have gone through the roof.
Sure.
Which has put pressure on projects, but we see people actually now building buildings out of metal stud and trying to go different routes to make up for that cost difference. But yeah, no, we've really stayed strong. The supply chain issues kind of worked themselves out for the most part as COVID went along, and the industry's doing well. It's an exciting place to be right now.
You bring in some guests. Obviously, we've talked obviously right before we were filming here, but recent guests include Gilbane. I mean, who's a bigger name than them, especially in the Northeast here, one of the biggest builders, and there's plenty of others out there. When you bring these guests on, what does it mean to them to have the opportunity to get their message across and talk about the industry?
It's funny. It's exciting for them, and it's weird for me to say that. I won't name names, but it was surprising to me, some people that, are very significant people in the industry, really successful. And back when we were doing it in person, they would even express like, all right, I'm really nervous. Right. Sure. And you're just thinking like, why are you nervous? It doesn't strike me, but yeah, people are excited about it. Like, I don't know if you experience it with this show, but you get a point where I think you start to hit some critical mass, and you start to get some good traction, and then people become more and more excited about it. This sounds like me pat myself on the back, but like I'm saying it because it was like really flattering to me when someone used someone who I didn't know as a friend, because you're in the circles and it's your friends that are listening at first, but it moved out of somebody that I had never met before, and I was talking to him on the phone and for business, and he commented that he really liked the show and he enjoyed it. And he's like, it's really become influential. And it just really kind of like took me, I would never think of that term when it talks, talking about the show. But to me, that was better than, winning any big job. Right.
Sure.
It just kind of feels good. And I'm sure you run across stuff like that where someone comes across and it's like, hey, I saw that episode with this person. You're like, oh, hey, that's, it feels good, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's not the instant gratification that everybody looks for. It's the long term. But you're right. You've really become this influencer specifically for Massachusetts, because that's kind of where your focus is. But and understanding that codes and perhaps restrictions change from state to state, but there's a lot I think you bring across the board with the technology of it, or just the thought leadership of it. And this is the way, if you ever wanted to get into those construction cons, those cons as they call them, the different ones that are happening. I mean, you could be the next panel leader because you've built yourself this niche, you've built this yourself this audience. You're the voice that's trusted in the industry, and the growth is awesome. What do you say to somebody who's younger, maybe thinking, I'm talking like high school, college age, and says, maybe a classroom isn't for me. Maybe it's time I just pick up a hammer or pick up a tool. Talk to me about the careers that are, and what a career is like in commercial construction.
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that, because there's definitely a misconception about construction in general.
Clearly, if I'm asking you about extension cords and building in meters and stuff, obviously, yes. And I'm the biggest idiot there is, so they only get better from there.
You own it though, so that's fine, right?
Do what I can, sir.
But no, there's a perception. People hear construction, they think it's somebody digging a ditch or fixing their toilet, and that can be part of it, right? But it's also people that are using, pretty interesting technology and building 3D models of a structure before it goes up, and trying to figure out how things go together and how they would fit in really tight situations. Or if you're down in an area that no one can access, well, let's send a 3D laser scanner down there and build a model and figure out how we'll get this, steel beam through this tunnel with the pipe coming across it, right? It's some interesting challenges out there. And, you're building high rises, and that can be a blast. And you're building, laboratories and hospitals and high-end condos. And this so much opportunity out there. And you can do everything from sitting behind a desk and working with spreadsheets and schedules and contracts, to being the person with the hammer or the Sawzall, or an electrician with some lineman's pliers, and learning that. And the business is really has really changed, and there's a little bit of something for everybody. And if you want to be the more blue collar side, that's there. If you want to be more professional, it's there. Or you could do something, which I did, kind of splits the middle, right? Which is I started off as a superintendent, which means you're out on site. You're not physically working with the tools or anything, but you're out there with work boots and a hard hat, and you're shooting levels, and you're making sure everyone stays on schedule. And if you like working with people, and maybe a tie in an office isn't for you, the construction site's a wonderful place. It's got some fantastic people.
You got those really cool trucks that pull up with all sorts of different foods and stuff, and
you got the roach coach in the morning. You've got
good stuff.
Yeah, and just the people that you meet, like you're going to have. I had guys that had graduated from MIT, and other ones that had just gotten out of prison, and they're both on site together. And there's less pretense. It's not abnormal to see someone throw their hard hat across the site. And I often say to people, we just recently had this conversation where if you ever worked for an accounting firm or anywhere else, and someone come in and threw something across the office, like, they'd be calling security, and you'd be taken out of there. But
right,
it's like, Ben's having a bad day today, and.
But I'll contest that throwing a calculator across the room does not have the same effect as, say, launching your hard hat or, a sledgehammer.
Fair enough. Yep.
Just saying. So keep the accountants with the calculators, keep the sledgehammers on the construction site. You have this podcast. Where can people find it? What can people do to connect with you? And if businesses are out there, or corporations or organizations that, have a message to share, how should they best get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can find Mass Construction Show pretty much on any of the platforms. I try and share a lot of useful information at massconstruction.org.
Okay.
And that's really been the heart of this, which is, I think, for anybody else who's ever interested in kind of breaking out into this space, as far as, getting involved in the industry, I think the best thing to do is share quality information that's useful for people. That's all I started doing, sharing good information that was useful to people. And that got traction. So if there are people that have useful information to share with us, please find me. LinkedIn's probably the best place, Joseph Kelly. And I'm happy to connect and share whatever else someone can bring to the table.
No, that's great. And obviously a shout out to all the various construction workers, not only in Massachusetts, but across the country. When things were really starting to hit the fan here a year ago, we relied on construction workers to build hospitals. And I mean, pull together the plans, adhere to the various codes, do it in a time where you didn't know what was happening with this infection. A lot of people forget that it was these laborers, these men and women out there who were pulling long hours, scared of what they might have been exposed to, but doing it because, everybody needed to kind of pitch in and come together. And so my hat's off to all the folks out there who, really just did what they had to do to make it. Some of these field hospitals, especially Massachusetts, really were the relief valve that was needed as things really were starting to, when we were in the height. Thankfully now, light is at the end of the tunnel, which is always a good thing to feel, and we're getting closer and closer. But your industry, the industry you represent and work with, certainly is, we owe a sincere debt of gratitude to for their efforts. So Joe Kelly of the Mass Construction Show. It's a podcast, folks. Find it anywhere you listen to podcasts. Even if you're not in construction, maybe you know somebody who is. This could be something really interesting for them. Please share this episode. And like I said, you may learn something. It might be cool. And if you got kids that are not sure which way they want to go in life, and they just need some guidance, turning them on to Joe's show would be a great thing to do.
Yeah, I'm happy to chat with any kid that's interested. Would love to talk to them. It's a great business.
Joe Kelly keeping the peace, ladies and gentlemen, unlike the other guy who used to be in the state of Massachusetts. Joe Kelly, it's great to chat with you, sir.
Great. Thanks, man.